Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about the Toyota Prius and why I think the hate on it is mostly unjustified. So here's the Prius, it's the second generation in the nice default green. So I mean 7 spokes I pay a bit more. So yeah, that's about it for the what I'm going to drive today. But I want to talk about why I think people really why their hate on the Toyota Prius is pretty unjustified. Most of the people when you ask them is they would say the more honest people would say that they don't like it because it's eco, which I understand. I like petrol cars more than hybrids, but I think they're still better than EVs. Uh, yeah, fair enough. But a lot of them always resort back to the car being ugly. Then when I push them for more questions, but why do you think it's ugly? They'll usually either say the body shape, like this rounded thing, or they'll think that they'll just not explain it, just tell me that oh it's just ugly. And just look at it, it's damn ugly. But I decided to take a closer look because I had a bit of spare time and I decided to take a look at the Prius. Why do people actually say it's ugly? I think it's a decent car for what it is. It's not pretty. It's just decent. It does its job. So today I'm gonna just drive around the around here in the Prius and just think about it with you. So a lot of people don't like the Prius because, as I said, it's the streamlined shape, but they don't realize this is actually form over no function over form. My bad. The streamlined shape that it is, I know it looks like a dog squatting down to take a shit, but this design is actually because they wanted to make the car more aerodynamic, make it more efficient, and like its main goal, save on fuel. So if you say that it's ugly, you forgot if you don't you haven't thought of the idea that people do design cars for what they are meant to do. So yeah, because I know a lot of people also say, oh, for the second generation, the front looks blobby and it's weird. So for a lot of them like to point to the blobbiness as a very ugly factor for the people who I've asked around. And one thing I have to say about the blob thing is that a blobby car can look good. For example, the first generation Ford Taurus is a notoriously blobby car, but people love it. They love the Taurus. It's a blobby car. They like it because it's blobby. Toyota Celica is another example. It's a blobby car. It looks hilarious. So, but why is it the case that in the Prius it's ugly? A lot of people think that it's because it's long, it's stretched and long, and they say the body shape looks weird. But I want to argue is that it's not a case of a hatchback. I think it's more of a liftback. A liftback is is the in between between a hatchback and an estate. They don't make those as much anymore, so I think that's why they people when they realize that it's about to they're doing trying to go into a new segment which was not known to have a lot of pretty cars in the first place. So people will be a bit more critical about it. That's one thing I don't. That's one thing I heard people say, but I'm not too sure. Another thing is a lot of people say it's because it's eco. Thank you for being honest. Honestly, just yeah, thank you for being honest. It's okay to not like a car that is because it's eco. For example, I'm not a huge fan of Teslas at all. I think I don't think they're ugly. I think some of them are pretty good looking. The S is a good car, but the I understand that that's the point you're coming from. You're a petrol head after all. You want a big engine. So yeah. Then for some people, actually most of them I'll say, I think 60%, I when I press them for more other than streamline and it's blobby, I ask what else? And why do you think streamline is bad? Why do you think blobby is bad? They just refuse to further answer. Or some of them even just dwell on the point that yeah, it's just ugly, it's just ugly. Do you I just think that some of these people, the reason why they don't like the Prius is because of what it stands for. It's an eco car. It's just that, but they just don't want to say it because they think that it makes them look bad. But I just think that I mean I get your valid eco concerns. Some people just say the car's flat out ugly. And what I thought about and what I've decided to do a bit of research, I found out that people one thing people don't like to feel is to be corrected. So they would rather be wrong than to be corrected. Which I mean is valid. I understand. I don't know how it's like to be in both situations. So being wrong is like, yeah, I'm just wrong and I know. And being corrected is like people obviously come to you and say, oh, you're wrong and this is why. If you let's say if I hit a person and I say, oh, it's because they have the fuel consumption is worse than a BMW M3, like what Top just said. Uh, then you can just I can pull out the MPGs from owners that I know, because I do know M3 owners, I do know Prius owners, and I can compare them because the way they drove them in Top Gear is not how people drive in real life. So if I were to put it out, and then obviously they'll be corrected. They'll be corrected. The car is better. The Prius is better in that case. And one thing they don't want, as I said, is to be corrected. So they just say it's ugly because that's a personal opinion. You can't change your personal opinion. So that's one thing that I noticed when people say the Prius is ugly. It's not exactly an ugly car. It's because I just don't want to like it. I just don't like it. I would say the Prius is not like still all hate. I think it deserves a bit. Every car deserves hate and every car deserves love. So I think that the Prius is just the hate for the Prius is much larger because it was the first hybrid, the first eco car in mass market eco car in a sense. The Honda Insight is also one of those, but they was a mass market and not a lot of people knew about it. When I tell you and I say the word eco car, people think of Teslas and the Prius and the Chinese whatever the hell they're making. So in that sense, yeah, the Prius is to say it's a terrible car in that sense. But they forget that what the Prius is in for. The Prius is not meant to offend anybody, actually. The Prius is just meant to be a car that just drives you to work. The Prius is just meant to be a normal car that just does its thing, and you don't complain about it at all. It's the main market for cars are people who just buy them to get the transport. Got so I mean that's what the Prius does. It's the best at it, actually. With rising gas prices, the car has good mileage, and the car is cheap, relatively cheap. I mean, they were not cheap as compared to its competitors, but if you think about it, oh, I'd rather have a fuel efficient car because I save because the petrol prices are rising and everything. So most people think that way, and they end up with a car like this, an eco car, a hybrid. So yeah, the hit on it is to me, if you realize that that's the main market they're making for, and it's unjustified. The Prius is a really good car in its own right. It literally does the job better than a lot of other cars that they try to design around mainline consumers. It's really one of the better stuff you can get. It does its job really, and it even gives you more. The boot space on the Prius is quite large. I can't seem to open the boot on this mod though. But yeah, in real life, it's quite large, and at least in Singapore, because we have COE, it's under, if I remember correctly, it's a Cat A vehicle. I think there's also a Cat B one. But basically, these things are, they're eco car that isn't filled with a lot of weird electronics. Like a lot of most of them, uh, most of them have. So people now really don't like new cars because they break easily. This one doesn't. And also another funny thing that I noticed is after they announced the brand new Prius, the one that has the front that looks like the SF90, after that people started to realize, is it the Prius that I hate? Or is it because it's eco that I hate? Is it the design that I really hate? Because most people brush all Priuses as ugly. So after that new Prius was dropped, you could tell from the comments that people actually didn't like. Some people who didn't like it is just because it's an eco car. And yeah, that's the only thing people really started to think. Is it the Prius that I hate, or is it because I read articles on, let's say, Top Gear or The Drive or something that said the Prius is a terrible car? And yeah, that's honestly if you, I just think that, with this new stuff, new information, everything, if you're able to change your mind, you know, able to change your mind about stuff based on new information that you just got, that's valid. Honestly, you're because at first I felt that it was because of like social conformity. That's why people said they didn't like the Prius. Which, come to think about it, to an extent, if your friends all said the Prius is an ugly car, but you think it's not bad, you would just say, oh yeah, it's an ugly car too. Social conformity is the largest factor in the car market right now. Uh, if now, like for example, everybody drives an SUV. I mean, the it's the car brands that push the SUV onto their consumers. Then they want social conformity to do the rest. Oh my god, everybody has a large car. I drive a small hatchback. If I get into an accident, I'll die. So I'm gonna buy another SUV. That's what the whole thing is about. So it doesn't make sense for them at all. For them to say no when everyone is saying yes, unless you really want to stand out. So yeah, pretty much I can go down a trail. Ooh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not one person who say the Prius design is ugly or the best in the world. In fact, I think the Prius usually has a flaw in the rear. For example, if you look behind, you see that thing, you see the boot and the wiper there, it does block your view quite a bit. So yeah, it's not exactly the best design either. But I feel that to design it, it's really difficult to. It's because they can't offend anybody. They really cannot afford to offend anybody that are looking to buy a car. It's a mass market car, for God's sake. Lamborghini, Ferrari, all of those, they can just go on and make ugly cars, but because people will buy them. Just remember to slap a V10 or V12 into it. People will buy it. It's fine. It's fine. So the thing is, yes, the cars, yeah, they're kind of, they're not the best. They're not the best looking. They do its job though, and they're cheap. So I mean, yeah, I don't, I don't see why 80% of the Prius hate is justified. I don't think, I mean, yeah, the Prius does deserve some hate. It's quite, it's actually not a very, the drive feel of the car is not really not there, and that's what you to complain about. But the thing about the Prius is, it does its job so well at what it's promoted to, you can't get mad at it. It says you feel. That's the whole point of the car. If you don't want to save fuel and drive the same thing, just buy a Corolla. So, that's why I just personally think, I just think a lot of this has to do with psychology, like the social conformity aspect and everything. And I just hope that people would, you know, the like three people who watch this video would really look back on it and then think about it. You know. Also, another thing I want to point out about these type of civilian cars, why some people value them more. I mean, you could laugh at some people paying quite a high amount for certain cars. Like I know a friend who paid about I know an American friend who paid about I think 6 grand for the first generation Estima. All his friends call him mad. That car is scrap worthy, but his his parents, when he was born, he was literally driven back home from the hospital in one of those things. So it's a car that he has very positive memories about. So he would want to, keep a car that reminds him